Let's do it. Making hot girls look dumb for views. I've talked about this before. Of course, it's the Whatever podcast. Of course. Alright. Look dumb? Yes. When you know, if I had a room full of moronic chatters all the time and I didn't ban them and then I make content out of them, I would get a lot of views too. But it would get really boring really fast, so people constantly have to one-up each other. You do? Guys, you are not stupid, okay? You would have been banned by now. Anyway. 3, 2, 1, boom.
I am fundamentally too old for this.
Or maybe you're tired.
Hi, my name is Sydney. Welcome back to hell. And as per usual, before we launch in, today's video is sponsored by Tiege Hanley. Now, if you've been here for any length of time around this channel on the Hell Gondola, you probably know that I am no great supporter of things that divide the sexes. And yes, while I acknowledge that some people, both male and female, can be total noodleheads and terrible, terrible people, I am consistently of the opinion that men and women by and large are better together. So with that in mind, it'll probably come as a shock to none of you that I'm personally not enjoying some of the new voices and shows and discussion coming out of the gender wars. The fact that we're even calling it gender wars makes me want to—
I have to interject. I think that if, like, for example, with the Whatever podcast, if I had the chance to talk to them, I think they would be like, well, you're like normal. And I'm like, you know, the majority of people are quite normal and quite normal to talk to. Like, what are we talking about, man? They're cherry picking morons who don't know how to even formulate 2 sentences together.
Eat a handful of spoons. This is actually a topic and a series of issues that I've wanted to explore for quite a while, but I will save this for another day for a deep dive when I can better articulate my viewpoints. Just consider this video as almost like dipping our toes in the water. Unless, of course, you're a foot person, in which case don't think of toes at all.
You hear that, foot people? Relax! Slow your roll!
Anyway, something that I personally am noticing more and more is that the commentary and the feedback and the general consensus around male and female issues and our relationship with one another is getting progressively more and more extreme, at least in online circles. And I think some of that, at least in part, can be attributed to this new wave of self-professed online dating shows like Fresh and Fit and the Whatever podcast, of which I am not—
They're dating shows? Wait, what? No, does anybody actually, can they confirm that? It's a dating show? I thought it was a talking show. Like, where they just make fun of dumb bimbos. I could find dumb men to make fun of. I could do that.
Not really a fan. And maybe that's because I am too
date
old for
them?
these
No
shows.
shot.
Maybe it's because I am not the target demographic. Or maybe it's because they make me want to nail my face to a frisbee and fling it over a rainbow. If anyone can—
They give dating and relationship advice. Their phrasing is weird. Okay, that's fine. It's fine. They're a dating podcast. They talk about dating. All right.
tell me where that quote is from, you have my respect. If you are not familiar with these shows, which honestly at this point you should be glad of that, they act more or less as a roundtable discussion where the hosts, who are men, invite on several women, most of whom do not know what a turtleneck is, and together they discuss a myriad of social issues relating to dating and male-female relations for many, many hours. And
yeah, and then they have the gotchas of, like, women who do OnlyFans, and they're like, well, this and this, I don't like this, but then the woman says something stupid, it's like, ha! Well, see how you like it! And then everybody laughs and is like, haha, fuck women. It's like, I mean, some people love this kind of entertainment. It's the same as, like, the boomers that are glued to, like, CNN and CNBC. They just want something to, like, listen to in the background that makes them feel validated, and that's unfortunately just how it is, okay? Yeah, it's just how it is, man. Some people like the crime investigation that talks about Moida, and there's always people that are gonna like stuff that makes them feel smart and feels like they're not pandering to them. It validates them. It's the Jerry Springer show, but modern era. Yeah, exactly. Thank you, Suning.
For whatever reason, guests of these shows seem to get very candid about very personal information that I'm not so sure we need to know.
I'm the queen of it.
Huh? You're the queen, so you're just like really skilled
Incredibly skilled.
at doing that ahigao?
The cum face, basically.
Is that, oh, that's what it is?
Yeah, that's basically what I use it for, at least.
Ma'am, please. You know,
Yeah. Why are we surprised? I mean, I don't think that's... If she wants to talk about that and say that she's good at it, I mean, good job.
now that I'm thinking about it, I guess if you're comfortable enough to put your butthole on the internet, sharing personal information on a podcast probably doesn't feel quite so personal. It's worth noting at this juncture that many of the women who appear on these shows, particularly on the Whatever podcast, have OnlyFans accounts or make some type of lewd content. But
yeah, and you know what's funny? All the people that make fun of these stupid women, a big portion of them will go to their OnlyFans and like beat off to them or give them $5 to go beat off to their pictures and be like, haha, I sure showed her. She's a dumb bimbo. Like, it's just how it works. It's free advertising for them. I'm sure that a lot of people don't do that, but I think there's a lot of people who do that. That watch the show and are like, I freaking hate this bitch.
because of the absolutely bananas answers and statements that these women and sometimes men are willing to give on this public show, these clips and these videos and these episodes often go viral. And as expected, because this is the nature of the internet, that leads to all sorts of commentary all round. To the point where both Vice and the New York Post have run articles calling out Whatever for inviting on female guests with the intention of making them look stupid. The New York Post opinion piece titled "Making Women Look Dumb is a Disturbing New Podcast Trend."
I don't know why we're surprised at this. Good news does not sell. That's why people report on bad news, because it makes people stick around. That's been like a thing for like hundreds of years. If you invited a bunch of smart women that yapped about science and like how they're saving people from like dying or they're saving people from having cancer, nobody's gonna care. They're gonna be like, okay, that's cool, that's awesome, and then they don't watch it anymore. They want to be enraged. It's like rage baiting. It gets people fired up, like someone just said. It's so easy. It's easy content.
Makes the argument that female guests are invited on to be mocked and belittled. And because of the claims made in this particular piece, several content creators have responded, mostly suggesting that the women make themselves look silly, and this isn't the fault of the host or anyone else. And to
They make themselves look silly and it's not the fault of the host. Yes and no, because these people are not smart enough or they don't care and they are cherry-picked because of how they are vetted. It's both yes and no. Yeah. It's easy money for them. I'm sure they pay them like a little bit of money and like they get free advertising. Now they bait them? Well, yeah, because they're not intelligent. Look, or at least not most of them are not intelligent enough to be able to respond on the spot. I think it takes a lot of it takes a lot of social skills, and it takes a lot of just general smarts to be able to respond to stupid shit on the spot without making yourself look stupid. Yeah, and I'm sure those hosts have been doing this for a long time, so they know how to bait people into, like, saying stupid shit.
To be perfectly honest, some of these creators are my friends, and while I agree with them to an extent, I only agree with them to an extent. These shows, while entertaining, in my opinion, are not good at producing meaningful dialogues. They are not good at bridging the chasm between the sexes, and to be completely frank with you, and again, I know this is a place where a lot of people are going to disagree with me, I don't like the way that the guests are portrayed, both on the show and in the clips following the show. So that's what we're going to talk about today, making fun of hot, dumb women for views, and how the Whatever podcast specifically is contributing to the gender divide. But you know what's not contributing to the gender divide? The sponsor of today's video, Tiege Hanley. Are you a man with skin on your face? Do you think moisturizer is for women? Because for some weird and inexplicable reason, you won't allow yourself to have baby smooth skin. If the answer to these questions is yes, and you don't want to look like Yoda at some point in the future, then Tiege Hanley has you covered. Tiege Hanley helps men start and maintain a skincare routine by simplifying the entire process. I know you lads see how many potions us women use, but it doesn't have to be that way. Tiege Hanley optimizes skincare by offering several different levels of products depending on your skin concerns, whether that's acne, anti-aging, or just general beautifulness. But if you're looking for something simple, level 1 is a great place to start. This comes with all the basics: a daily face wash, an exfoliating scrub, an AM moisturizer with SPF 20, and a PM moisturizer. Because you don't want to look like Yoda! And the coolest part about Tiege Hanley is that every box comes with an instruction card that tells you when to use each product, how to use it, and in what order. And if you decide—
Monkey, read it! You don't know what you're doing! Read it!
to become a Tiege Hanley member, that comes with lots of benefits, including 20% off the retail price, the ability to pause or cancel your subscription anytime, and the ability to customize your order. So if you too want beautiful man skin, then click the link in the description for 30% off your first box plus a free gift. In early April, the Whatever Podcast Twitter account, or X, or whatever this is called these days, posted a 27-second video
6.1 million views. That's a lot of dosh, dude.
Captioned, "OnlyFans girl gets roasted." In it, an OnlyFans creator called Nicolette Nicole was asked how much she makes on the platform. She replied, saying it's tacky to give a dollar amount. Another female guest, Mary, said it's tacky to be on OnlyFans to begin with. Nicole seemed taken aback and responded that everyone is entitled to their own opinion, but Mary's response was bad vibes. This clip, along with many others posted by this account, have gained thousands of views and plenty of comments, most of which are people calling out the featured women for some asinine or silly opinion they expressed on the show. Nicole—
I think that her responding and saying that's your opinion, man, is the appropriate response, okay? Like, you're allowed— look, if you're gonna invite someone and just straight up insult them and be like, you're a hoe, and you go to OnlyFans and you hoe yourself out, it's like, yeah, okay. Yeah, and that's what I'm here for. You invited me on here. Like, yeah, wow, very cool. You're allowed to do it, man! And they're allowed to judge you on it. Well, that's just like your opinion, dude.
Nicole herself even took to the comments of the aforementioned clip to spruik her OnlyFans account. In an interview with Vice a month later, she said that she loved that the clip of her went viral because it gained her peer support, social media followers, and most importantly, OnlyFans subscribers.
And how many people of those watched the podcast and said, oh my god, I hate this bitch. Oh, I hate her so much. Oh, I'm gonna give her $5 and I'm gonna beat off to her. I'm cranking my hog because I hate her so much. So they agree to come on the post to get ridiculed? Yeah, it just makes some money. Yeah.
At the end of the day, this is why I agree to go on any podcast, to increase my social—
And 6.1 million people saw, or at least glanced over the fact that this chick has an OnlyFans. That's a lot of eyeballs that she did not have earlier.
Media presence, she said. I love it how there's absolutely no standards for becoming a person with followers on the internet. Like, you can have 4 brain cells that you rub together and people will find something interesting about you.
Yeah, like me.
Feeling a little insecure, are we? Yes, there is some truth to me getting dumber after watching all of these clips. Now, the Whatever podcast has always been a little bit bizarre to me for a multitude of reasons. The OnlyFans thing, which we will circle back around to shortly, is one of them. But importantly, when these Whatever clips started making their way onto my social media feeds, I couldn't work out initially if they were representative of the way that most modern women feel, or if this is just a specially curated group of pretty but not particularly bright young women for virality purposes. If you haven't worked it out already, the answer is the latter. Not ladder, latter.
Well, the other thing is that sex sells as well. If it's a trad wife who just like bakes pies while her husband is out at work and they invite him to the podcast, it's not interesting to people to listen to that. She's gonna be dressed relatively modestly. There's nothing to oogle at, except that maybe she's like a woman, so it's like, I don't blame them, but like, that's how they sell their podcast. Titties sell. Did you see the one that had her boobies out? The one that did the face? She had her bahonkas right there. Do you see that? She had her bahonkas out all on display.
What am I doing? The thing too is that many of the clips that end up going viral are cut in such a way that guests are portrayed poorly, worse than the things that actually are coming out of their mouth, if you can believe it. Or these snippets themselves just eliminate all meaningful context. Sadly, and it goes without saying, but this is obviously a tenet of modern content creation.
That's also another thing I hate. I hate when people take clips out of context. Like, I would have been like, if they clipped this more out of context, this would have looked even worse, but I guess she didn't really care. The Mary chick, or the one where they talked about it.
And lots of people do it because audiences simply do not have the time to go and find the original content, pinpoint the moment that that particular thing was said, and understand the context surrounding it. Which means that if you can successfully pull off these kinds of clips and get lots of eyes on them, you become the master of the narrative. It's grim when I say it out loud. So with this in mind, I can understand why the writers of the Vice and New York Post pieces arrived at the conclusions that they did. In the months leading up to those articles, several clips from the Whatever podcast went viral on both Twitter and TikTok. These clips range in content from discussions about body.
Look how many of them they got their boobies out. 1, 2, 3, 4. This one is the only one that has like the cleavage covered. Man.
Positivity to racism to one woman backing and forthing with the host Brian on feminism and patriotism.
I love this too. The laptop on top of World War I, II, World War II by map, Vietnam War, The World of Ice and Fire, a Game of Thrones book. Oh, they're so intellectual, man. Look at that. Not a bronze site. Yeah, they got their titties out.
Women have been oppressed since the beginning of time.
How?
And it's natural.
Oh gosh. How?
Are you really? How?
Yeah, go ahead.
How? You're
the one
asking
saying
me
this is
how?
true. Yes.
No, women were oppressed in history,
Okay.
but so were men.
There's a cut here, by the way, so there's missing context.
It's
How?
not. It's not.
Not as much as
see,
women
now
were.
this is interesting because if I say how were women oppressed, you're like, well, it's self-evident, Brian. I shouldn't have to educate you. Yet you've just asked me the same question. You've just asked, how were men oppressed? Shouldn't you know?
One of the more disturbing clips
Holy shit, we're not even trying. I'm gonna get banned off of Twitch. Hold on, I wanted to say something. Just listening to this makes me want to tune out because it's like the intellectual disparity is not there. She came unprepared, and this guy is prepared because he's probably been talking about it for like 3 years with different women. Yeah.
Shouldn't have to educate you. Yet you've just asked me the same question. You've just asked, how were men oppressed? Shouldn't you know?
One of the more disturbing clips featured a young woman suggesting she broke the hearts of men for fun.
I didn't really like the guy. I more just wanted to see if I could break his heart. And
yeah, there are women who do that. I don't hear about them very often in my personal circle, but this does happen. Yeah, I know, it's crazy.
it was fun.
Wow.
So did you break his heart then?
Just a wee bit. I hope I did a little damage.
Wow. Okay. Why do you hope that you did a little damage?
I like humbling men.
You like humbling men?
Yeah. It's like my pastime.
Your pastime is humbling men.
That's weird.
You do work at a strip club, so do you humble men there?
No, I take their money.
These videos are terrible, and the things these women are saying.
It's rage bait. It's rage bait. If I heard a woman say that on the street, I'd be like, what the fuck, bitch? Like, are you okay? Do you need a therapist? I got one. You want to hear about him?
Are either asinine or absolutely absurd. The writers of the Vice and New York Post articles both argued that these women are set up to say these things and that a moment is clipped to go viral. And they're definitely right about the latter. This show is perfectly poised for clickbait and inflammatory hot takes. But the fact remains that these women are making these—
This happens in every single aspect in news media. People get set up. They script this shit. They script everything in media. It's just that these guys figured out the formula before before other people. They perfected it. It's not hard, man.
Statements of their own volition, and they seem to either really mean what they say, are saying it for shock value, or they are completely ill-equipped to answer the original questions presented to them. You're probably like, but Sydney, why would they go on the show if they're not smart enough to answer questions? That's their own fault. And you would be right. But they want that OnlyFans subscriber money, my friend.
Yeah, because they want to be paid. They probably don't pay him a whole lot to come on the show. That's what I think. They probably don't pay them a lot to come on the show, but what they get out of it is the OF subs.
That's the motivating factor there.
Yeah.
Also, do you know how obsessed this generation is with being famous? This generation being Gen Z, who I abhor. But where the writers are correct in their assertions about making women look stupid comes from omitting important context. It doesn't happen 100% of the time, but it happens enough. For example, there's yet again another clip that went viral where a young woman is discussing how many men she has over in a night to do the devil's tango.
It got to a point where like I was 19 and I got kicked out of my house because I was like bringing over 6 dudes a night. Like it just was never enough. Enough was never enough. So, yeah.
What? Wait, 6 dudes a night?
For like a consecutive week, yeah. So
6 times 30? Wait.
Somewhere around there, yeah.
And how were you meeting these guys?
Usually dating apps. I have like a hard time approaching men. I usually just wait until they approach me.
So like, would you slot them in like 7 p.m., 8 p.m., 9 p.m., 10 p.m.?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
I don't know what to say. Absolute cap. Guys. It's a hole, man. It's a warm hole. I'm not trying to be disparaging, but like there's some people who are not that picky, man. I call bullshit. You guys don't understand. I've seen some women who are not, who are not too picky. Some people have preferences. Maybe they want ugly chicks. I don't know. I'm 6 a night. Yes, man. There are some people who are psychos.
Okay.
And then I would even, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I'd say I would even like have like my backup guys to where it was like, if this guy didn't come tonight, then I would invite this guy. And then if he did come, if the first guy did come, then I'd tell the other guy, oh, I'm busy. Like I can't, make it or whatever.
But if you watch the full episode, she explains that she had a sex and opiate addiction and has spent a great deal of time trying to recover from that.
Yes, sex addicts are actual addictions. Yeah, that's an addiction, 100%. Yeah, that makes sense. Plus, if you have an addiction to drugs, sex is like a lead-in factor for that sometimes. Yeah.
You're a sex addict.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so what does that mean?
It can look like a lot of different things for a lot of different people. I'm
So they clipped her out of context. If they didn't include the sex thing, I'd be like, damn, this bitch is addicted, damn. But now it makes sense. If you're addicted to sex, that's what happens.
also a recovered drug addict, but sex was kind of like my switch away from opiates. So
so she's getting away from the opiates, and she needs another dopamine hit. Anything gives you high levels of dopamine can get addicting, especially if you're trying to forget about something like trauma. Yeah, exactly. Maybe she didn't have drugs that night, so she probably just set people up because it's essentially free.
Once I got clean off of opiates, it just kind of transformed itself. I mean, it's always been a problem.
In fact, during this episode, this woman tells a very sad story about overdosing and how her addiction started with the consumption of adult content at a very, very young age. Let me get this straight. This podcast invites on women who make adult content. Then it brings on a guest who consumed this content from a very young age and had deleterious effects on her. Then the show cuts clips of that woman talking about a very challenging time in her life to basically shame her when the show itself brings on people who make the kind of content that contributed to her doing that in the first place.
No, I even have a better point. Have you guys seen those videos of that guy that does interviews with like homeless people who are like either addicted to drugs or they have like problems or they're like traumatized? Imagine she was on that and she talked to the guy about it, who's really wholesome, by the way. He like gives them money and like tries to help him out. I forget what it's called. Does anybody know what I'm talking about? The black and white one? What is it called? Damn. Well, it doesn't matter. He's really famous on YouTube. But imagine he clipped that out of context and made a video about it saying, oh, this woman has sex with men 6 times a day. And it's like, well, actually, I'm an addict and I'm trying to get help. And it's like, well, you're a bad woman. It's like, soft white underbelly. Yeah, that's it. Imagine if they did that. They would look really, really bad.
What the fuck? Now, just to be clear, I am not saying that this removes her accountability and her responsibility or even the fact that she was at some point and maybe still is promiscuous. Obviously, the original clip is still very shocking, even with the additional context. And in fact, the whole episode where she's discussing these things is also quite shocking with the additional context. But at least it explains that there's so much more happening that feeds into the behavior that's being described in the viral clip. Information that your average person will never come into contact with because they will never take the time to find the episode and listen to it. I would also like to draw your attention to another recent clip from the Whatever podcast that features Turning Point U.
She should have gone there then. But, like, man, you're missing the point entirely. If you clip something out of context to make it more viral and outrageous than it actually is, you're being disingenuous and you're just farming like not the truth, essentially. Because it's more interesting to have her being like a quote unquote a hoe instead of being a sex addict. Yeah. It's just weird.
USA personality Alex Clark.
Exploitative,
In the clips posted to
word.
Whatever's YouTube channel, they highlight a moment where Alex calls the host Brian a beta male for some of his opinions about marriage.
I think in order for me to actually consider marriage, she would have to out-earn me.
Oh.
I think like she would have to out-earn me. That's...
You don't want a broke girl?
Huh?
You don't want a broke girl?
I mean, for a partner, I would date a broke girl, I guess, but if for marriage, you want marriage...
It's very kind of you, Brian. It's very kind of you.
very generous.
You are very nice.
Like, what's your
considerate.
ballpark range? Like, you're saying she has to make over more than you
It's
for
just
marriage.
so
for marriage.
it's
She's gotta
so
make more than
beta
me.
to me to be like a guy to be that scared of women and like marriage.
Bro, it's not beta. It's the most gangster shit
Wait,
you can do.
wait, hold on.
Oh my god. They're both cringe. Why are we using the word beta and gangster in a word about about marriage?
Be like smart about your money.
Wait,
just
I'm
like always
confused.
thinking every woman is out to get you and manipulate you. Like
I'm
that is beta
confused.
shit.
At the end of this clip, Brian remarks that Alex is running away from the conversation right as he is about to answer her question.
Yeah, I would say when it comes to marriage, she's got to make more than me. She's got to out-earn me. Oh, of course, Alex runs away when I'm about to respond to her.
I actually asked Alex about this because I watched the clip and I thought, I bet this is deceptively edited. And it turns out that she was getting up to use the bathroom and she shouted off screen, sorry, when Brian made his comment about her getting up to leave. She was by no means running away from the situation. She had to use the restroom and she was promptly coming back, which he acknowledged. He said, I will address her point when she comes back.
Again, they clipped it out of context to make it like, oh, look at this dumb woman walking away. And she's gonna take a piss. They even cut out the part where she's saying, oh, I'll be right back. Sorry, I need to pee.
Back to the table. However, if you watch the clip on its own, you would never think that that was the case.
Alex runs away when I'm about to respond to her.
Sorry.
It's okay. Apology accepted. Well, do we have any chats? We don't have any chats. I'll wait to respond.
I will reiterate once again that these women are saying what they are saying. No one is putting words in their mouth. No one is trapping them in a corner to have them articulate these things the way that they're articulating them. I realize that. I recognize that. You will hear no disagreement from me. But if even Alex Clark, who is a Turning Point USA content creator,
I didn't think he was serious in the clip. That's just me. I know, but the clip, the clip out of context makes it look like she ran away and he was telling her off. Because you would assume that the clip ends and then that's the end of the conversation. People don't generally go into like a 5-hour podcast to verify a clip that was like, posted and went viral.
Who probably agrees with a lot of the viewpoints held by many of the non-mental patient people who participate on that podcast, and she's being taken out of context. What do you think is happening to the No Turtleneck Club? But of course, my issues with the Whatever podcast go a little bit deeper. If you actually sit down to watch one of these episodes, it genuinely feels like one giant struggle session. The reality is that this show posits both sexes at odds with each other, and rather than trying to find a middle ground, it just highlights the absurd positions and opinions of guests, mostly the female ones. The fact here is that either these podcasts intentionally invite on limited intelligence women, or these women themselves take the chance because they want to promote their OnlyFans or build some online clout, but they so happen to still have limited intelligence. Their opposition.
That's what I'm saying, man. The disparity in intelligence. Like, these guys they argue like full time, right? It's not genuine to invite someone like that who just like posts their boobs on the internet to invite them to an quote unquote intellectual podcast to argue with these people that do this full time. It's just like, it's intellectually dishonest in my opinion. I think someone earlier, I didn't quite catch it, but I think someone earlier said when they invited people of equal intellectual level, there was not an interesting podcast because they just ended up coming to like agreements or just saying like, yeah, I agree to disagree. Whereas, the people that are doing OF, they will try to usually justify what they do for a living because they need money to like, just to fight it, and that becomes a discourse and it gets more clicks.
Being the men look smarter by comparison. These moments are then clipped from the show, circulated en masse on social media, where accounts use them to make wholesale generalizations of women and women's views. However, now that they are bringing on different kinds of people, including the occasional smart woman, it quickly becomes clear that this isn't a matter of all women being dummies. It's that the majority of female guests are just not smart. Tweets by the account Liberty Anders summed this up pretty well. Imagine if I invited a lineup of incels and asked them questions designed to make them/men look awful every single week, and then clipped those interviews to further fuel the destruction of male-female relationships.
Exactly. That's a really good point. I bet you I could find some sex pest and get him in Discord and like clown on them and make him feel stupid and how he's addicted to sex and how he can't stop masturbating to hentai or like fucking have like 3 monitors pulled up looking at porn and then make fun of them and my chat would find it funny. But would that really be something that would be a genuine like good idea and not something that's dishonest? Yeah, it wouldn't be. It would be awful. It would give great clicks. I'd feel called out. I mean, it's just like, it's just mean. What's wrong with masturbating to hentai? I just explained that if you're masturbating to hentai and you have 4 monitors up filled with porn and you do it like 5 times a day, that's when you have a problem. Learn to listen. Open your ears. I would assume you guys aren't that bad where you need like 4 monitors up for ultimate stimulation.
She goes on to write, the girls they get on this podcast are selected by the podcast hosts from Instagram. Most women are very chill and normal and haven't slept with a trillion men. The fact that y'all are starting to believe that women are like this is the problem with this podcast. These kinds of clips /
But there's also women that don't do any favors and like openly talk about how much, cock they get. Or pussy, whatever.
Podcasts / commentary that are very negative towards the opposite sex make it very hard to have a normal relationship because your brain becomes all consumed with online relationship discourse and you stop seeing your partner as an individual. Now listen, obviously we make generalizations about both sexes because we do in some capacity share characteristics within our sex group. That was weirdly articulated, Sydney. But I do agree that people should be judged as individuals rather than as a collective when it comes to sex, especially when you're picking a partner. But I think there's something about a lot of these new age shows and a lot of the new age commentary that absolutely takes advantage of how lonely people are. And that brings me to my last major issue with the Whatever podcast, the OnlyFans thing, which I talked about earlier. But we're here now. If you orbit the gender commentary space enough, something that some of you might have noticed is the overall
whoa, this picture's a bit much!
Negative perception of OnlyFans women. This is something obviously that I've talked.
I'm sorry, I was too busy focused on the visual. What did I say? What did she say? Sydney, do not put videos like this up on the screen. I get distracted, woman!
Talked about earlier. But we're here now. If you orbit the gender commentary space enough, something that some of you might have noticed is the overall negative perception of OnlyFans women. This is something obviously that I've talked a lot about on this channel. If these shows, their hosts and their followers call these women out for making OnlyFans content, why would a woman like Nicolette Nicole use the Whatever podcast to gain OnlyFans subscribers?
Because it's money and it's her job. Why would you refuse a collab with a big VTuber even if it means you get clowned on? Because you get more exposure and you get more money in return most of the time. Yeah, like, what the frick, man? What the frick?
And more importantly, if everyone abhors these creators, why would these shows keep inviting these women on in the first place? One of the most unacknowledged things about the Whatever podcasts and shows just like it is that it platforms people who create prawns, while simultaneously not acknowledging that its viewers are consumers of prawns. By prawns, I mean adult content, but YouTube won't let me say that. So prawns it is, my young potatoes. In a way, it's kind of cyclical and symbiotic, if not a little bit parasitic. You see, the shows need these girls. I mean, it's how they get people to watch in the first place. And the girls need the show. It's how they grow their OnlyFans accounts. These shows bring on large-breasted, scantily clad OnlyFans women, feature them heavily in the video thumbnail.
Oh my god, how is this allowed? I can't say the word corn like 15 times in one YouTube video, but they're allowed to post this shit?
Knowing this alone will garner thousands
of views.
Man. Then these women are slammed with questions they aren't cut out to answer. These moments are then clipped and circulated, gaining both the show and the woman a tremendous amount of attention. And somehow it's the women who've just been mocked relentlessly that now have a greater OnlyFans subscription base. It's like buying a Pornhub membership to watch a video on that platform about why prawn is bad being presented to you by a bunch of big-boobed, half-naked ladies. It feels a little counter-
They're hate watchers. They want to beat off to them because they think they're lower class people and it's in their head and they want to get, quote unquote, get back at them. So now they buy their OnlyFans and go and... Like, it's not that deep. I hope Sydney addresses that because it's very, very true. Yeah, hate wankers.
Intuitive.
Yeah.
And I would like to make note of the fact that the show's co-host is a sex doll, and Brian, the host himself, has tried to sell pocket fleshlights on the show. I mean, yeah.
Wait, what? I didn't even see that. What the hell? That's actually gross, man. What the hell? Why is it on the table? Why is it on the table?
Yeah, it's very based, obviously, so based. I'm too old for this. Honestly, all of this reminds me of the trouble the Twitter account Women Posting L's found itself in not too long ago. The account, which usually spends its time posting content of women doing a self-own, so to speak, started making posts tagging OnlyFans creators.
Oh yeah.
People were quick to point out that these posts were actually
I had to pause it because it was what I'm trying to say is there's a lot of really popular Twitter users that started buying into like promoting OFs. Nice pause. Sorry, chat. I don't want to get banned. I needed to pause it on context. It's very, very common. They pay in thousands of dollars to like promote them and say like, oh my god, look at this hoe doing things on their Twitter. And then it's like a fake like article or something.
It's for the women in question. And this is ironic given that the count has spent its time pointing out women making fools of themselves, mocking OnlyFans and so on. And now,
yeah, because it makes money. I know. That's crazy. It's a self-perpetuating cycle. Welcome to capitalism.
Now it's suddenly promoting the very OnlyFans models it's been mocking. The Whatever podcast is more or less on the same wavelength. Now, I wasn't intending on this video being this long or this disjointed, so apologies for that. This is one of those topics where I have a bit of a hard time connecting my thoughts, so thanks for bearing with me. But I do want to leave you with a few final thoughts. Now, firstly, and I want to be clear about this, I do not like it when shows, regardless if they're an online show or they're a network show on your television, do this to either sex. I don't like when people are taken out of context, and I don't like when videos are cut and edited deceptively. I don't care.
This is the same thing as the Jerry Springer shit. When I was a kid, I watched like maybe a couple of episodes, and then I was like, dude, this isn't even funny after like the first, second, and third time. Like the first time, it's just like, wow, whoa. She's not the baby, she's not the mom of the baby, wow. And then they like jump on the couch and they start screaming at each other. This is the equivalent of this, except it's a podcast. They might not jump on chairs and call each other names.
If you're a male or a female, I don't like that happening to anyone. And the problem with the Whatever podcast and similar shows is that they don't offer meaningful solutions to some of the issues that they're discussing on the show. And now you could argue that that's not what they're there for. Well then, don't paint all men or all women with the same brush. If you're not going to try to ameliorate people's lives and you're just going to sit there and have a struggle session, don't try to make it seem like all women share these viewpoints when they don't. And if you in fact want to help people better themselves, I think it's a great idea to bring on people who can assist others in doing so. But
that doesn't make them money or as much money as they want. It's all about the money, man. I agree with her, but it's just like, you can say that and then say, oh, well, we should ban this. It's like, no, we shouldn't ban this because we should have banned the root of the source, which is rage baiting and making other people look bad by clipping them or putting people in that are of, not as smart or articulate as you are. Discarded in society? I mean, yeah, I guess you could discourage it into society, but we are so far gone that discourage in society, would that involve, like, saying that, like, I don't know. It's hard to say because this is, like, bordering on like, oh, well, freedom of speech and all that. Like, if you don't want to be on the podcast, then you don't have to be. Someone else is going to fill their place anyway.
As it stands, all these shows are really doing is furthering the gender divide, pitting people against each other, and tarring all women with this terrible, terrible brush. These shows now juxtapose one good woman with multiple bad women, as if the former is the exception and the latter are the rule. And this is just not the case. Like I acknowledged very early on, maybe I am not the target demographic, and maybe I'm too old to understand what's going on here, and maybe a lot of this is going over my head. But if I am understanding it correctly, then I maintain that all of this is incredibly unhelpful and doesn't do men and women any favors. In the end, I know that this kind of content will always exist because there will always be a market for it. But I really am hopeful that something much, much better, much, much more helpful will spring up in its place. Now, before I open the floor to all of you, this is just a reminder to check out Tiege Hanley using the link in the description. Go check them out, and your man skin will thank you. Now, open the floor to all of you. What do you all think? Have you watched the Whatever podcast? Do you like it? Do you think it's good? Do you think it's actually helpful for both men and women? Have you...
People watch it because people want to have their ideology enforced. Yeah, I mean... People always say, oh, you know, the left echo chamber has this, and then there's the right echo chamber. It's like, there's an echo chamber for fucking everything. If you want to hear that shit, and then you have the... this is another really good example. People always say shit about, like, Asmongold and say he's, like, a right-winger and stuff like that, but when he takes a more centrist approach and says that there's like problems on both sides, people freak the fuck out at him. They say like, oh, you're such a fence sitter, you're a little bitch, you don't know how to solve problems, so you just say, oh, you're a fence sitter, oh, you take a more liberal approach, you're a liberal. It's like, it doesn't matter, man. It doesn't matter. It goes both ways. It's cringe. You have to invite some sort of, like, even the lightest sprinkling of, like, the opposite thought to have critical thinking and to open up discussion for the other side. But people don't want to do that because they want to fucking jerk off in their own little circle.
Not watched it? Do you not ever intend to watch it? Do you think shows like this generally are kind of silly or kind of unhelpful or just really out of place in our modern society? Do you agree with my sentiment that relations between the sexes are actually getting worse right now, that things feel much more extreme and much more heightened than they have in years gone by? Do you think that these shows have a place in society? Do you think they...
No, it's just for low IQ people to feel good about themselves. I've watched a Whatever podcast. I got bored after one sitting. It's just, sorry, not for me. Maybe if you're just enjoying that content and you want to eat some slop, that's cool. There's people that love eating McDonald's once a month. There's nothing wrong with that. You're allowed to do what you want. It's when it becomes a problem when you start eating McDonald's 30 times a month. That's when it's bad.
Don't have a place in society, and what you generally make of this issue overall. As always, if you liked the video and you're still here watching at the end, I encourage you to subscribe if you haven't already, or leave me a like or a comment. I do read the vast majority of the comments, and I really like reading all of your feedback. If you have a video suggestion, feel free to let me know, and I will see you wonderful, beautiful people in the next video. Stay safe and well.
And then of course I get a bunch of OF videos, man. Damn, that was good. Wow, good with shitty podcasts. It is what it is, chat. It is what it is. Rage bait exists everywhere. Eating Macca's 29 days out of 30. You guys misunderstand me. You guys are like 30 times out of a month. Some people eat McDonald's like 3 times a day, if not 2 times. That's what I was alluding to. Some people just eat it like, oh, I'm gonna be healthy. I'm gonna not eat breakfast or lunch, and then I'm gonna have McDonald's. I'm gonna have McNuggies. Bricked your algorithm. Break this. They're talking only and hurt people using for views and money. I think to some extent, Every form of social media does that because people are so isolated, they need their own, like, little bubble to feel comfortable in. And when that bubble, which is kind of like why I hate it when I say something and then people don't understand where I'm coming from, or I take like a devil's advocate approach of like trying to understand the other side. I get really annoyed. It's like, I'm sorry you feel uncomfortable with me saying this. You're allowed to disagree with me. But like, don't call me and insult me and say, oh, you're such a little bitch. I knew it. I knew you weren't actually like X or Y. X or Y being like, you know, left or right or whatever. Like, bro, I don't give a fuck about politics. I don't care. It's just my opinion. Sorry. I don't label myself like that because I'm not cringe. The C vaccine made her unaddicted. She got herself addicted again on purpose because she wanted to be addicted. What the hell was that? What? C vaccine, is that cock or something? Is that some cold word schizo for cock? Oh, yeah.